Thank you. Sit down, please. Right, welcome everybody to today's annual full council meeting. Particular warm welcome to guests joining us today in the public gallery. It's been 3 years since we've done one of these properly, so it's lovely to see everybody here. And particularly welcome as well to those who are watching us via YouTube. For those in the building who weren't here when we started the last meeting, just to quickly run through the safety procedures. We're not expecting any evacuations today. Should an alarm go off, please leave the chamber through your nearest exits, and we congregate on College Green outside the cathedral. Item 2 on our agenda is apologies for absence. We've received apologies from councillors Chris Davis, Jeff Gollop, John Geeter, Fabian Breckles, Tim Rippington, and councillors Francis and Renard. Are there any other apologies from the floor? I'm assuming everybody that was here half an hour ago is still here. Excellent. In which case, we move straight to agenda item of 3, which is the election of the Lord Mayor. Councillor Grant, would you like to propose the motion?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I would. Hello, everybody. Many people in this room know Paula very well, as she has been a feature of this chamber for 7 years now. She's been a tireless ward councillor, an active committee and scrutiny member for the city, a mover of initiatives, a fearless challenger, and a party group leader. And now she is setting off for a busy, varied, colourful, intense 12 months as the next Lord Mayor of Bristol. I want to spend the next couple of minutes anticipating what we should expect from our next first citizen of Bristol. When I moved back to the UK in 2018, I became a member of the Green Party. Paula was the first person I met from the party in the city. At that early stage, way before I ever imagined I would stand for election in Bristol, I was struck by her perseverance, her single-mindedness. Now, as a fellow ward councillor, I have seen this quality in action many times, as have residents who have benefited from this tenacity, and officers who have been on the receiving end of it. No is not a word to use lightly around Paula O'Rourke. This determination and authority will be necessary for her as chair of full council in this very chamber in the battle to keep our more loquacious colleagues to time, to manage the cut and thrust of party politics, and to ensure respect and relevance in our exchanges. Another quality Paula has is harder to name, but it's a kind of admirable universality. I know it is not very fashionable to quote Rudyard Kipling these days, but his words work for Paula. She can talk with crowds and keep her virtue, or walk with kings, nor lose the common touch. It isn't my place to comment too much upon her capacity to keep her virtue when in crowds, but the point here is that Paula is comfortable with people from all communities, ages, backgrounds, and capacities. She is genuinely captivated by people's stories. She is moved by their hardship and suffering. She's inspired by courage and achievements. This has got to be a great thing in a Lord Mayor, a relish for all experiences, a natural sympathy, a true interest in everybody. Finally, Paula has something I imagine you cannot do without as Lord Mayor, a great sense of humour. Much of this ceremonial role, despite its history and solemnity, or perhaps because of it, must require a lively sense of proportion, levity, even mirth to keep it all in balance. I expect Paula will be leaning on these qualities in the coming 12 months, and we will see her invest her considerable energy in many causes and events. After decades as a teacher and a head of English in schools, students and young people, theatre and literature will no doubt benefit from her attention. Her interest in democracy and participation will also likely find expression. I am delighted to propose Paula for Lord Mayor and to wish her all the best for the coming year.
Thank you very much. Councillor Clark, would you like to second the motion?
Thank you very much indeed, Lord Mayor. I rise to second the nomination of Paula O'Rourke for the post of Lord Mayor of Bristol for the coming municipal year. I'm pretty sure that Paula is watching this in the parlour. I really hope she is anyway, because obviously wise words from yourself and I hope I'm going to impart a few wise words as well to her. Over the past few years, I've served on a number of committees with Paula and also been to civic functions with her as well. It's really clear that when Paula is in the room, people will notice her. They notice her because she has an abundance of one quality, which is key to the role. She really likes chatting to people, and they like chatting to her. Well, Paula, you will get plenty of practice in the coming year. You will learn so much about people's lives and experiences and what makes Bristol this wonderful city. Paula, I know that we have spoken about the role of Lord Mayor in the last few weeks, but remember this, you are going to be this city's first citizen, and with that role comes responsibilities. Remember all those who have gone before you and future Lord Mayors. This is not about you, it is about the role you inhabit for this precious year. You will be representing the city both nationally and internationally. But most importantly, you will be meeting the widest range of people and communities here in Bristol. Go to places that you never even knew existed and learn more about Bristol than others could learn in a lifetime, all crammed into 1 year. I urge you to take every opportunity the role offers you. Say yes to everything. Sorry, Steve. My advice, buy good shoes, as you will be standing around a lot. Definitely get some good hats. A girl can never have too many of them. And enjoy your year in front of you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The motion will now be put to Council.
The motion before full Council is that Councillor Paula O'Rourke be elected as Lord Mayor. All those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against say no. The motion is carried.
Please stand to welcome the Lord Mayor. Congratulations, you have been elected the Lord Mayor of Bristol. Thank you. Councillors and guests, please be seated. And I will now invite the Lord Mayor to read and sign the Declaration of Acceptance of Office.
I, Councillor Paula O'Rourke, having been elected to the office of Lord Mayor, declare that I take that office upon myself and will duly and faithfully carry out the duties of that office according to my best judgment and ability. Thank you, everybody. Welcome. That was quite a little bit of entertainment there. We're not 100% sure why we do all of that every year, but we do it. Thank you. So, there is actually a convention that I'm supposed to pretend that I'm being dragged into the chamber because the onerous duty of being Lord Mayor of Bristol is so much that you do it reluctantly. And I think some people in the audience who know me from the Hot Wells Panto were probably a bit surprised that I wasn't hamming it up more. But I think it's actually evidence of the fact that I was so keen to get here today, to get into this chair, that I wasn't even in the parlour, I was right outside the door. So I couldn't pretend that I didn't want it. So first of all, I'd like to say some thank yous to people who are here today. I'd like to say thank you to my fellow councillors who elected me into this position. I'd like to say thank you to my consorts, to my husband, Colm, who has taken up this role, and to my best friend and longest friend, Linda Cameron, who's come all the way from Australia and is going to spend several months with me. Freudian slip. Excuse me. And I'd like to thank the people who are filling the public gallery today to support me here. Most especially, I would like to thank my Irish family who've travelled all the way here to see me being elevated today. I know they're taking great pleasure in it, but I would also like to say that I am actually genuinely very moved by the pride that my family feel in me attaining to this role as Lord Mayor of Bristol. I'm sure not one of them ever suspected when I took the emigrants' boat that I would end up sitting here in this chair. So, I've said this before, I do feel a bit like Dick Whittington. I certainly do when I'm in my big feathered hat and my fine robes, but there are other parallels too, which I like to push home. Like Dick Whittington, when I graduated from university in Ireland in the early 1980s, there were no jobs and there were no opportunities. So I packed my knapsack and I took to the road. And I did seek my fortune. I've never perhaps found a fortune, but I have been very fortunate. More than 40 years after that first journey, I'm lucky enough to have the love of my husband. I probably should admit, actually, that one of the reasons for me getting onto the emigrants' boat was that he had already emigrated, and I was chasing after him. So that has endured, and I'm so lucky to have the love of two wonderful children, Breffney and Alana, who are here in the gallery today. I've also been fortunate enough to have a rewarding career. I really enjoyed my time in teaching. I love my work as a councillor and the work that I do here in City Hall. And Freud says, the great psychiatrist, said that for good mental health and happiness, you need two things. You need work and love. And I've had both of those, so I feel very grateful. So, while I take up the challenge that I take here today when these chains have been put on me, I do find it a bit daunting. Joss has told me that you can do up to 800 engagements. So that's going to be tiring. And I also think that perhaps, I'm sure everything will go very smoothly today, but I think perhaps in this role over the year, there might be some challenges in chairing this meeting. But nevertheless, I welcome those challenges because it will give me an opportunity to really get to know my fellow citizens in Bristol. And I'm very much looking forward to meeting citizens from every corner of the city. I also know that I'll be enabled to do the job well because I'm very well supported. I have Rachel and Zara and Richard, who are the experts, and I know they'll organise me. So I'm the novice, but I put myself in their capable hands. During the year as Lord Mayor, I want to particularly focus on democracy education in schools. As an ex-teacher, I'd like to visit schools, every secondary school, to talk about how we are a representative democracy and to teach them to be involved and to know what that actually means, and to make sure that when they attain to the age where they can vote, that they will get out and do so. One other thing I'd like to do is I'd like to see this chamber used more. I would be really keen to do parliamentary-style competitions from school children, and maybe even get some of the elected members to take part in some of the rounds, so that we get people in here recognising that this is where democracy happens and good decisions are made. So, another thing that you might not be aware of is that this is actually the 850th anniversary of the year when King Henry II granted the city of Dublin, my hometown, granted it to the men of Bristol. Well, so it says something that I'm here today, an Irish woman sitting in this chair. But I would like to take advantage of those links and try to strengthen some links between those two fine cities. Finally, I'd just like to say one more thing. This is a very symbolic role, going back centuries. But I'd like to think that this year, maybe there's just another layer of symbolism on it. My story shows that one can start out alone on a road, but that you can build a good life and find a place of belonging. This story of finding a place to belong is one I intend to repeat in my engagements throughout the year, in the hope that those newly arrived in this city, in this country, will hear and see that a good life can be made in Bristol. Thank you very much. So where am I? Okay. Thank you so much. Now, my bit over, we have a vote of thanks for the retiring Lord Mayor and Lady Mayoress. So, Councillor Sharon Scott, I believe, would like to propose the motion.
Firstly, may I congratulate the new Lord Mayor and wish you every success in the year ahead. It is with great pleasure that I move this vote of thanks to the retiring Lord Mayor. As a much valued and well-respected ward colleague, I know Steve and his wife Kath, the retiring Lady Mayoress, have brought a great deal of friendliness, professionalism and passion to their respective roles. The past year has been a tricky one in the civic life in our city. Although the return to normality has been slow, it has still been a relatively busy time for Bristol's first citizen. I believe there have been nearly 300 public engagements in his diary, and fulfilling these various commitments, Steve has been ably assisted by his deputy, Councillor Varney. By convention, each Lord Mayor gets to dedicate their year in office to a particular cause or personal conviction. And in this regard, Steve chose to promote the work of volunteers. Steve is a scout leader and a blood bite volunteer, so I know that volunteering is something that's very close to his heart. If members take the time to follow the Lord Mayor's Twitter feed, they will see the rich variety of community and religious groups, charities and individuals providing invaluable service to the people of our city. I am sure Steve will have many precious memories and highlights that he can share with us over these past 12 months. I will only mention some of the events here, but I am sure Steve will have his own favourite recollections. So during the past year, Steve has abseiled down the side of the Children's Hospital and robed undertook a charity walk for St Peter's Hospice. I am also aware that it was particularly important to him that a proper legal Sunday civic service was held in October, the first one with celebrants since the imposition of lockdown. I look forward to hearing him recount more of his adventures, especially the one where, in his robes, he was mistaken as a real pirate. I also suspect he will have put on a few pounds from having to attend many a luncheon and dinner function. I'm not sure he can reclaim the cost of a new wardrobe on his councillor expenses form. Steve, you should feel extremely honoured and proud to add your name to the long line of previous mayors and Lord Mayors which dates from 1216 to the present day. This remains rightly an essentially non-political ceremonial role that acts as a unifying force, a kind of glue which pulls the city together and provides a link with the present, to the past and to those who are yet to come. Steve and Catherine have done a fine job in upholding this tradition and deserve our appreciation, gratitude and thanks. As our returned Lord Mayor, you have shined a light, supported and thanked volunteers across our city who truly make a difference. And on behalf of everyone, I thank you for your commitment during your year in office. Thank you.
Councillor Marley Bennett, would you like to second?
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and my congratulations. I rise to second this vote of thanks to the outgoing Lord Mayor. After I was first elected to council, when it was explained to me that a Tory councillor would be in charge of enforcing the rules, I was sceptical. I'm really pleased to say that all my preconceptions, which were possibly always unfair, couldn't have been further from the truth. The outgoing Lord Mayor's chairing of business in this chamber has been impeccable. He's always been fair, impartial and firm when you've needed to be. As a new councillor, daunted by the prospect of speaking in this hall for the first time, he helped foster an environment where I felt encouraged to speak up on behalf of residents in my ward. Of course, the political debates we've had over the past year have at times got lively, but he's always been here to steer us towards ensuring it remains constructive. I actually had the experience of being scolded by the outgoing Lord Mayor after I alluded to a certain national politician, who I don't need to name, who may or may not have broken some rules. The outgoing Lord Mayor completely justifiably pointed out that we shouldn't be attacking those who are not here to defend themselves. Fair enough. But I think what marks you out is you made the point of coming up to me right after that to explain why you'd done that and even apologised, and I really appreciated that. But of course, serving as Lord Mayor is so much more than just chairing over proceedings here. You act as a key ceremonial figurehead for the city. It's a real privilege to serve as the first citizen of Bristol and represent the city at civic events, hand out medals to Bristolians for services to their communities, and attend functions that celebrate Bristol's cultural diversity. I've seen the great pleasure the outgoing Lord Mayor has taken in this role and how he's been well suited to it too. It was at one such event, a flag raising to mark Transgender Day of Remembrance, when I saw how empathetically he was when he spoke with members of the trans community to listen to their experiences. There are also jokes about the robe and comparisons made with Santa. It's clear that he loved the role he played as Lord Mayor in meeting with and representing Bristol's numerous diverse communities. This is a trait that everyone involved in public service should aspire to, and something that the city is grateful for. So it gives me great pleasure to second this vote of thanks to the outgoing Lord Mayor.
The motion before full council is that a vote of thanks be recorded for the retiring Lord Mayor and Lady Mayoress. All those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against say no. The motion is carried.
So, Councillor Smith, would you like to address the full council?
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. And may I also congratulate you on starting your role today. Thank you as well for all of the kind words that people have said today, both in those speeches and others that have spoken to me. I don't think after the last year my ego needed any more polishing, but I really appreciate it and I'm very grateful. Thank you. It feels in a way that I've spent the last year writing this speech, and yet as I stand, I'm still not quite sure what I want to say. This is I think the second time this year I've actually made an effort to write a speech on paper, the first one being this time last year. But this has been an incredible experience, a wonderful year. And people ask me often over the last few weeks, what's been your favourite bit, what's been the highlight? And I think it'll take some months before I can process it all and really answer that question honestly. But there have been some amazing memories that I will take with me for life. Doing that slow march up to the cenotaph last November, while the parade was at Alert and the band played Nimrod behind me, that's one that I'll remember for a long time. Singing sea shanties with the captain of our aircraft carrier. The balloon flights, the boat rides, the countless beautiful events and dinners and visits and openings and special occasions. Just in the last week, last Wednesday afternoon, Kath and I were at Buckingham Palace for the Royal Garden Party. And then on Friday evening, in the director's box at Ashton Gate, watching the Bristol Bears beat Exeter. And out of deference perhaps to Her Majesty in this Jubilee year, I won't say which of those I was more excited by, but perhaps you'll guess. But wonderful though all those things are, and as much as I'll cherish all of those memories of those special occasions, I think the real joy of this role has been the people that I've been lucky enough to meet along the way and what I've learned. It reminded me a bit of when you become a new councillor, which incidentally Time Hop told me this morning was actually 4 years ago today in my case. Maybe it's just me, but my experience was that when you stand for election, particularly if you're standing in the ward where you live, as many of us have been lucky enough to do, you think you know your ward quite well. And then you get elected and you discover that you knew nothing. And you suddenly meet so many people and you get under the skin and you learn how it works. I'm seeing a few nodding heads, not just me. Good. Doing this role has been like that all over again, but for the whole city. I've had the great privilege of getting to know so many different communities, organisations, groups, individuals around the city, and not just get to know them in passing, but really get to know and build relationships with them that I just didn't know about before I started this role. I've learned so much more about our city that I hope I'll be able to take with me, and I hope it will make me a better councillor in the future. As people have said, I made my theme for the year to celebrate volunteers and volunteering, and I said a year ago that I wanted to spend the year meeting and thanking and celebrating as many volunteers and groups around the city as I could. Well, 12 months on, I've got to be honest, I've barely scratched the surface, and yet I've been so lucky to meet and to join in with and to work with hundreds and hundreds of volunteers in different groups. And I couldn't possibly name them all, but they include the St John Ambulance, the Scouts, the Guides, the Blood Bikes, the Air Ambulance, the incredible women of Sandy Park Road who do so much to make their area better, the volunteers who run our local memory cafe in Westbury-on-Trim. And just this Sunday, I had the great privilege of loading the 3,000th box of aid going from Bristol direct to Ukraine onto a truck, which has been done entirely from the ground up by volunteers who saw a need and rushed to fill it. Ably supported, I should say, by Councillor Massey, who's done great work helping that to happen. But I've become more convinced this year than I ever was of the value of volunteering, the value and the contribution to the city of those people who see a need and step up and do the right thing, not because somebody tells them to, not because it's their job or because they have to, but simply because it's the right thing. And I know that without people doing that, and I know many of you in the room are those people, that this city simply wouldn't be the place that we know and we love. So I hope I can carry on seeing them, and I want to say express my huge gratitude to all of the people I've met who've made me so welcome over the last year. And there are some other thank yous as well that I want to say, and I appreciate this isn't the most riveting bit of the speech for the rest of you, but it's important to me to say thank you to people, and this is the last chance I'm going to have to stand here and speak without traffic lights, so I'm going to do it anyway. And first of all, I want to thank the Lord Mayor's office, Rachel and Zara. You've been brilliant this year. I've really enjoyed working with you. You have organised my life more successfully than I've managed in the previous 44 years. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do when I get up tomorrow morning and look at my diary and you haven't told me what to do. But thank you for all of your support. You've been brilliant. And likewise, the security team and the drivers, Richard, Les, Gareth, Sharon, Martin and others who've looked after us over the course of the year, not just for getting us where we need to be and looking after us, but also for ensuring that what goes in the car stays in the car. And having that safe space is very helpful. The Democratic Services team as well, who are all around the room somewhere. I wondered before I became Lord Mayor, when I first came to full council meetings, what are all those people doing who are sitting on the dais? And now I know. There's an incredible amount of work that goes into making these meetings happen. We've all heard the analogy of the swan sort of gliding peacefully along the top of the water with the legs paddling underneath. Well, these guys are doing the paddling that enables us to sit in that chair and enable our job to be easy and things to run smoothly. So to everybody, and particularly for wrangling the 1990s technology and making it work in the 21st century, thank you to all of you. Andrew, as Deputy Lord Mayor, thank you for all of your support. It's a weird kind of relationship because the nature of the role means that actually Andrew goes to the events I'm not at and vice versa, and actually we barely see each other as the year goes along. But I have had reports back. And everybody that you've met has told me how much they've enjoyed meeting you, and I hope that you've enjoyed your year as Deputy as much as I have. And finally, I want to thank the Lady Mayoress, or the former Lady Mayoress, my wife Kath, and my family for allowing me the time and the space to do this role. I can't deny that I am sad. I will be sad to step down, but there are perhaps some compensations. I turned over the page or flicked over the screen in my diary this weekend, and from tomorrow morning, it's empty. That hasn't happened for a year, and I think that I'm not sure how long that will last, but it will be nice to some extent to have my life back again. There's a phrase that I will no longer have to live in fear of. It's, would you like to say a few words, Lord Mayor? Usually said, my Lord Mayor, as somebody is handing you a microphone and pointing a camera at you, so watch out for that one. Never turn up anywhere without a few words. And never again, and this one I suspect, my Lord Mayor, won't be such a problem for you, but never again will I have to explain, while standing in the gents' toilet at an event, that I am in fact not Marvin Rees. 3 times. 3 times that's happened. I want to finish with just a little story that happened actually a couple of hours ago that just says some of the little magic moments that happen in this role. My very final engagement in the hour before I came back here to start the meeting today was attending a concert at St Mary Redcliffe of primary school children, called Bristol Preludes. And I must admit, I was feeling a little bit despondent that it was the countdown to my final moments as Lord Mayor. And when the concert started, there was a massed choir drawn from many primary schools around Bristol, and they stood up and they sang "Here Comes the Sun" by George Harrison, beautiful song. And as they sang the words, "Here Comes the Sun," this is genuinely true, a beam of sunlight came down from the windows above us in the church and lit up the pew where I was sitting. And it's impossible to feel sad when something like that happens. Unfortunately, the next song they sang as I had to get up and leave was the final countdown. But there you go, you can't have everything. It has been an immense privilege to serve this year as Lord Mayor, a privilege which I'm very happy, my Lord Mayor, to hand over to you. You're going to be brilliant, and I hope you enjoy your year as much as I've enjoyed mine. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. That was very encouraging. Lots of things for me to look forward to. I'd like now to move to a vote of thanks to the retiring Deputy Lord Mayor and his consort. Councillor Andrew Brown, would you like to propose the motion?
Thank you, my Lord Mayor, and welcome to the role.
Thank you.
Andrew's route to the Deputy Lord Mayor was unorthodox. Rather than doing the hard yards as Lord Mayor first, as is the usual custom, his proving ground was as one of his consorts to the former Lord Mayor, Councillor Joss Clark. And then he got elected and walked right into being Deputy Lord Mayor. The start of his term was unorthodox too, of course, in that much of the early part of the year was affected by COVID. with the Lord Mayor's team having to contend with the changing regulations and guidance to facilitate the programme of events that both the Lord Mayor and the Deputy attend. And I think we should recognise, as the Lord Mayor has already mentioned, the work that goes on behind the scene in that regard. COVID also intervened to give Andrew a rare opportunity to take the Lord Mayor's place at full council. Not, I think, something many of us would have relished doing at short notice, but Andrew did it with aplomb. Now, aplomb is sometimes an overused word, but I feel that in this context it is warranted. Throughout the year, Andrew has stood ready to don his robes and medal of office to fulfil the many and varied duties required whenever the Lord Mayor was unavailable. Well, I say he enjoyed donning his robes, but it's clear from his social media that he does like a fur-lined coat and a feathered hat. But I can let the chamber in on a secret. Set knife. It is conspiring against me. It's locked me out. The secret will have to wait a wee second. Oh, I can't believe it's done this. This is killing me now. If I knew how to work the printers in this place, I would actually print this out in advance. Okay, I happen to know that Andrew generally borrowed Councillor Clark's robes. She's now looking forward to getting them back, but she wants them thoroughly cleaned first. I should also mention his partner Robbie, who is here too. It's incredible support for Andrew, and it's good to see him in the chamber today, supporting him as he relinquishes the role of Deputy Lord Mayor. Last year, when I spoke proposing him for the role, I said Andrew is preferably upbeat and enthusiastic, with a real interest in people and what they do, and that will serve him well when he is called upon to do it. I believe that he has demonstrated that in spades over the past year. I would like, therefore, to formally thank him on behalf of these benches and the chamber as a whole.
Thank you. Councillor David Wilcox, would you like to second?
Yes, I would like to rise to this opportunity to thank Councillor Varney for his tenure as Deputy Lord Mayor. He stepped up to the role as a newly elected councillor at short notice and has enthusiastically taken on the responsibilities of chairing full council when the Lord Mayor had COVID, leading the Bristol Irish Society annual Street Patrick's Day Parade, organising sheep grazing on the Downs, steering the Bristol Diverse Doors multi-faith event, and performing the citizenship ceremony for many new citizens. He's also known for his admirable brevity in response to Deputy Lord Mayor's comments to full council, and to coin his favourite phrase, I shall now reserve my remarks.
The motion before full council is that a vote of thanks is recorded for the retiring Deputy Lord Mayor and consort. All those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against say no. The motion is carried.
More presents. Thank you. We now move on to agenda item 4, which is the election of the Deputy Lord Mayor. Councillor Henry Mélenchon, would you like to propose the motion?
Thank you, my Lord Mayor, and congratulations on your appointment. I'm very pleased to propose that Councillor Smith be made Deputy Lord Mayor Bristol. My colleague Councillor Scott has already spoken of his and Catherine's personal qualities, which have made them both so popular and effective during this past year. Of course, the advantage of having an outgoing Lord Mayor play this subordinate role is that we now get the benefit of having 2 Lord Mayors for almost the price of 1, a bargain. The part played by the Deputy, a spare to the heir if you will, depends upon what each person makes of it and the opportunities that fall to them. This in turn is determined and shaped by the Lord Mayor's ability to fulfil their many public engagements. So, if not quite as well publicised, this is an important supplementary role. I think it's fair to say that Steve is well respected, in this chamber, and we are fortunate that he will be giving up his time for another year of service to our great city. I'm sure that Councillor O'Rourke will benefit greatly from having his experience to call upon. Utilising former Lord Mayors in this supportive way seems to me good practice. Otherwise, it could be really daunting for a relative novice to be thrown into the deep end and having to follow the various protocols and rituals of office. Furthermore, Steve now knows well enough the sort of demands that can be placed upon him, his wife and his family. That said, I hope Steve will get plenty of opportunities in the year ahead. I'm sure he will perform any ceremonial duties afforded him with the same kind of high standards and good humour that we have come to expect. I formally move the motion.
Thank you. I'd now like to invite Councillor Ellie King to second.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and congratulations. I wish you a very enjoyable and fruitful year. Having only known the now former Lord Mayor in that role, I'm going to struggle to start calling you by your actual name. It's a bit like being a parent at school and you get to call the teachers by their first name. It feels a bit forbidden. Anyway, I've got a year to uncondition myself, and I am delighted in the meantime to second Councillor Steve Smith, sorry sir, for Deputy Lord Mayor. I've had the pleasure of attending many events with him over the past year in post as Lord Mayor. I joined him at the menorah lighting ceremony at Hanukkah and met his lovely family. We broke fast at Ramadan. We celebrated the end of Ramadan at the Grand Iftar. We attended flag raising ceremonies together for the Commonwealth, for Bristol's Romanian diaspora, for Transgender Day of Remembrance, for Indian Republic Day and others. Throughout, I found it to be gracious and welcoming whilst carrying out his civic duty. The messages in his speeches are focused on celebrating the rich diversity of our city, messages of embracing difference and of being inclusive, and messages of championing the many faiths, diasporas and cultures within it. He has championed the message that Bristol is a city of sanctuary, a message on which we can all wholeheartedly align. I have no doubt that he will continue to be an excellent ambassador for Bristol and its values, and I wish him all the best as Deputy Mayor. Deputy Lord Mayor.
The motion before full council is that Councillor Steve Smith be elected as Deputy Lord Mayor. All those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against say no. The motion is carried.
Thank you. I now invite the Deputy Lord Mayor to read and sign the Declaration of Acceptance of Office.
Thank you. I, Councillor Steve Smith, having been elected to the office of Deputy Lord Mayor, declare that I take that office upon myself and will duly and faithfully carry out the duties of that office according to my best judgment and ability.
Okay, I think we've done all the changing and the badge swapping and the hat changing. So I now move that this full council should adjourn for 20 minutes. Refreshments are available in the conference hall, and we welcome all you all to see you there. Thank you. 20 minutes. Thank you all. So we're now on to agenda item 5, which is the minutes of the previous meeting. So firstly, I move the minutes of the previous meetings of full council held on the 15th of March and on the 2nd of March 2022, that they are agreed as a correct record. Do I have a seconder?
Yes, my Lord Mayor. Seconded.
Thank you. Can I take it that the minutes are agreed? Aye. Thank you. Right. Agenda item 6, declarations of interest. Can I ask, please, whether any councillors have any interest to declare regarding the items on today's agenda? No? Thank you. Agenda item 7, Lord Mayor's business. I have to perhaps tell you pleasingly today that the Lord Mayor does not have any extra business. An excellent start. Thank you. So agenda item 8, written public statements. Under the Constitution, there is no provision for public forum at the annual council meeting. However, as indicated on the agenda, it was agreed that written statements could be submitted to this meeting as long as they were about items on this agenda. Statements will be noted, and it is not possible to speak to statements at this meeting. There were a total of 2 public statements received. A list will be displayed on the screen. Will it? All statements were, however, published for councillors, the Mayor and the public to view in advance of the meeting. Statements are there now. Thank you. Agenda item 9, dates and times of full council meetings for 2022 to 2023. As Lord Mayor, I would like to move this report. Please, can I ask Deputy Lord Mayor, Councillor Smith, to second the report?
Seconded, my Lord Mayor, reserving my remarks.
Thank you. Thought you were still there. Party group whips have been fully consulted on this report. If there are no objections, I therefore propose to move directly to voting on the report recommendations, which are to approve the dates and times of full council meetings for 2022-2023. All those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against say no. Thank you. This concludes this agenda item. Agenda item 10, establishment of committees for 2022-2023. This report asks full council to establish committees for the year ahead. As Lord Mayor, I move the report. Please, can I ask Deputy Lord Mayor Councillor Smith to second the report?
Seconded, my Lord Mayor, reserving my remarks.
Thank you. Party group whips have been fully consulted on this report. I therefore propose to move directly to voting on the report recommendations to approve the council committees for 2022-2023. All those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against say no. Thank you. This concludes this agenda item. Moving swiftly on to agenda item 11, allocations of committee seats and appointment of members to committees. This report seeks Council's agreement for the allocation of seats on committees in accordance with the statutory requirements concerning political balance and the appointment of chairs. As Lord Mayor, I move the report. Please, can I ask the Deputy Lord Mayor, Councillor Smith, to second the report?
Seconded, my Lord Mayor, reserving my remarks.
Again, party group whips have been fully consulted on this report. I therefore propose to move directly to voting on the report recommendations to approve the allocation of seats on committees. In so doing, I ask full council to formally note and agree the licensing committee membership as displayed on the screen. Are we going to display it? Okay. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. Thank you. This concludes this agenda item. Agenda item 12, Mayor's address to full council with party group leaders' responses. I will call on Mayor Marvin Rees to give his address. Mayor Rees, you have 10 minutes.
Thank you very much and welcome to the position, Lord Mayor. So I'm 1 year into my second term, following my re-election last May. And the promise I made was to deliver change for our city, and that is what I will continue to do. So we need to keep delivering over the next 2 years, but also put in place the foundations of key achievements that will be delivered in the immediate years following and the decades following May 2024. We all need to understand, I would suggest at this moment in time, what Bristol is, the challenges and the opportunities we are facing as a city. And first, I do think it needs to be stated that Bristol is a major UK city with a global role. It's not a village. We have a £15 billion economy. We are a world leadership city in media tech. We have 2 world-class universities. And amongst our population, 180 countries of origin, 91, possibly 92 languages, 45 religions. In terms of our leadership, I am now chair of the UK's core cities, the 11 biggest cities outside of London. It's the first time the chairship has come out of the north of the country, previously held by Richard Lees, former leader of Manchester. At this moment in time, and thanks to the hard work of the team in this organisation, I'm chair of the Local Government Association's City Regions Board. Again, 2 key platforms for the voice of cities and urban Britain. I also sit as the LGA's representative on the Commonwealth Local Government Forum, which means attending the CHOGM, it's inputting to the CHOGM events, the Commonwealth Heads of Government, this summer, and attending the Commonwealth Local Government Forum gathering in Kigali in August, all in the name of setting national and international policy on issues ranging from migration to climate change. Bristol is a founding member of the Western Gateway, the 3rd powerhouse in the country. We're a founding member of the UK Cities Climate Investment Commission that's identified over £200 billion worth of decarbonisation investment opportunities across the core cities plus London. And we're founding members of the Mayor's Migration Council that contributed to the shaping of the Global Compact on Migration and have subsequently shaped the Global Compact on Refugees. We're members of Eurocities. We're a membership city of the Mayor's Task Force on Climate and Migration, along with C40 and the Mayor's Migration Council. So we have that global role, which is critical to shaping the context in which we operate, not just for the city's benefit, but for the world's benefit. Our challenge in Bristol, as we've set out a number of times, is this, that we are 42 square miles. We have a population of 465,000, which is predicted to grow by 550,000 by 2050. We're grappling with interconnected social challenges. 16,000 people on our housing waiting list, with around 1,000 families in temporary accommodation. Over 15,000 children under the age of 16 in relative low-income families. In 2015, the Runnymede Trust ranked Bristol as the 7th worst area in England for racial inequality. Education inequality sees almost every teenager in Clifton progress to university, whereas fewer than 1 in 12 from Hartcliffe do so. 10% of households are estimated to experience fuel poverty already, and 4% of households experience moderate to severe food insecurity. And there's a gap in healthy years life expectancy of over 16 years between the 10% most deprived and the 10% least deprived areas in Bristol. And here's the additional challenge with that. These challenges are getting more acute because both the consequences of COVID and the consequences of the national cost of living crisis. The other is this, that we're trying to meet these challenges in the context of a climate and ecological combined emergency, where the actions we take will determine the price the planet pays for us meeting our population's needs. And that is why we are absolutely focused on delivery. Our city needs us to carry an ambition that is characterised by inclusion, sustainability, and resilience. To that end, we're going to continue to focus on our priorities we were elected to deliver. The arena, on target for delivery in 2024 at no cost to the public, putting Bristol on the map for major acts such as Queen. And at the time of making the decision about Temple Island, people were saying I was under pressure, but the show must go on, and it did, and last night proved that we have broken free. I could see that's not landing, but there you go. We debated whether to include that, but anyway. If someone had groaned, I was going to say, don't stop me now. Continuing, I suppose they did, but I said it now anyway. So we're going to continue to take forward the work on the mass transit system, doing our best to work with our partners in the combined authority and our neighbours to get people back on the buses, to build the case to transform the way we move around our major global city. We've secured millions of pounds of funding from the City Region Sustainable Transport Settlement to build a network fit for the future. And we've been selected as a zero transport emissions city to develop more projects to eliminate emissions from transport. On City Leap, we're delivering over £400 million worth of clean energy investment over the next 5 years, delivering the pace and scale of change Bristol needs to be a carbon neutral, climate resilient and wildlife rich city by 2030. On Temple Quarter, we're kickstarting the biggest regeneration of projects outside of London in a generation, delivering 10,000 new homes, creating 22,000 new jobs and bringing £1.6 billion of annual income to the city's economy. On Western Harbour, we'll be delivering sustainable, affordable homes the city needs in an active travel area, made possible through a modernised transport network and at the same time introducing our flood defence system. In the city centre, we need to deliver the one that is sustainable and fit for the future, bringing forward homes, supporting jobs, bringing families back to living in the heart of our city. And we've just finished taking comments from the city to understand what people would like to see, but it will be, whatever that future holds, it will be a destination that is more mixed with retail along with residential and destination venues. We're also restoring the city's fundamental underlying infrastructure, not least the bridges that hold the north and the south together, along with the flood defences to protect our city and free up more space for development and homes. The new recycling and reuse centre in South Bristol was opened up as part of a better relationship between the city, waste and recycling. It was promised decades ago, delivered by us now. And Project 1000 is ramping up to our manifesto commitment of 1,000 affordable homes being built each year by 2024. We're delivering affordable homes also in Hengrove Park, Castle Park, and next to the Castle Park Energy Centre, Bedminster Green, Romney House, Dovercourt Road in Lotley's, Alderbury Walk in Southmead. We'll drive forward our work as a living wage accredited city as part of our inclusive economy, real action to help people meet the rising cost of living. 3,400 people working in Bristol had pay rises up to the real living wage between January 2020 and April 2022. There are now over 40,000 workers in Bristol guaranteed at least the real living wage. On the nighttime economy, we continue to support Bristol's cultural and entertainment sectors while continuing our work to make sure our nighttime economy is safe for everyone, particularly women and girls. Alongside this, we've set up the Living Rent Commission, working to develop recommendations for government to give us the powers and controls to improve the private rental sector in Bristol. Modernising social care through better lives at home, helping people live independently in their own homes for longer, playing a leading role in the development of the integrated care system. On new schools, we got coming through at Silverthorne Lane and the park, and we're making sure everyone gets off to the best possible start in life as Marmot required. And on the leisure centre front, we're investing, harnessing investment from operators to update facilities and focus on improving the offer. But we've also transformed the way the city is led. A senior army officer, a friend of mine, if I can say this, said, make a plan, any plan, just make a bloody plan. When we came in, Bristol had no plan. The strategies that were live in the city finished in 2021, 2022, if we were lucky. We brought the city together to write a plan, setting out what we wanted Bristol to be in 2050 and what we needed to do collectively between now and 2050 to become that city. The One City approach is underpinned by a simple understanding that what people get from Bristol is not the result of any single person or any single organisation's decisions, not least the council. Bristol is a collective act. It is shaped by the council, by the health service, criminal justice system, voluntary sector, schools, faith groups, trade unions, businesses, and any serious attempt to lead Bristol must convene all of those decision makers and create space for them to work together towards shared aims. Over the next 2 years, we are going to continue to invest in the relationships we've built with those city partners to make sure Bristol's leadership is as inclusive and joined up as it needs to be. Thank you.
Thank you. I would now like to call on Councillor Steve Pearce to speak on behalf of the Labour Group.
Thank
Steve,
you, my
have
Lord
5
Mayor.
minutes.
And congratulations.
Thank you.
I've already made a speech on the governance referendum. I think it's now appropriate that I address the elephant in the room, the cost of living crisis. Inflation, 9%. Gas prices are up 250% since January. Rents in the southwest are up 18% compared to 2020. We all need to play our part in tackling this. It's an issue that's affecting absolutely everyone in the city in one way or another. The government gives the impression of sitting on its hands, which makes our work as councillors all the more important. We maintained Labour's scheme that prevents the worst off from paying council tax, and we doubled the local crisis prevention fund. This deserves recognition, especially when you consider that in real terms, government funding to councils continues to fall. Just as pressing as the cost of living crisis are the housing and climate crises. It's why we should all be pleased to hear that we've built the most affordable homes for 12 years and secured almost £500 million of investment to decarbonise our heating systems. So, a reminder of the work we've been doing over the last year. The most affordable homes for over a decade, doubled the local crisis prevention fund, 1.8 billion for new council homes and 96 million to make existing homes more energy efficient. Stamping out benefits discrimination in the private rented sector and preventing the Home Office from deporting people on grounds of homelessness. The first new train station in almost a century. A new recycling centre on Hartcliffe Way, soon to open. The first drug checking service in the UK. Leveraging up to £1 billion worth of funding to decarbonise the city's heating system through City Leap. Finally repairing our city's bridges after the can kept being kicked down the road. Expanding our landlord licensing services, cracking down on rogue landlords. A strategy to double tree canopy, resettled refugees from Afghanistan and Ukraine, continued to protect the worst off from paying any council tax, plans progressing for the youth zone in Knoll West. That's a small selection. I could go on. We were elected and are delivering on our priorities of affordable house building, tackling inequalities in all its forms, and rapidly decarbonising the city. I knew it was a mistake to rely on this technology. We've got a big year ahead of us, finalising the details of City Leap, pushing ahead with the biggest council housing scheme in a generation, and doing all in our power to help with the cost of living crisis. But as well as the work our Cabinet have been doing, I'd like to highlight some of the work some of our members as ward councillors have achieved. Katja set up Brislington's first community market. Chris, after a long campaign, secured funding for a new multi-use games area in Knoll West. Tim's got a road named after the late councillor Mike Langley. The Beehive in St George is being expanded thanks to Asher's work. Don's lobbying for funding to fix the Iron Bridge came to fruition. Thank you very much.
I'm going to laugh at that as well.
But it's not Scotch. Kerry's hopefully getting a memorial to a resident who was killed in a road traffic accident in 2017 in her ward. Watch this space, there'll be more work, I'm sure, on that. Nicola's been pulling up stumps for road safety across St George Central. Do you know what pulling up stumps mean? No. You don't. I'll explain later. Fabian, who's not here, Fabian secured funding for his local football club to get an extension to their building. I could go on for our Labour councillors, but I will conclude by saying that we've come a long way since 2016. We've got a lot to be proud of, and I look forward to building on that work this year.
Thank you, Councillor Pearce. Somebody just speak from the floor?
Yeah, can I just add a point of explanation? And I don't want to get at you at all, but actually that wasn't the first community market in Brislington. Just for point of explanation. Thank you very much.
Okay. Moving along swiftly, we'll go to Councillor Heather Mack to speak on behalf of the Green Group.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. And it is wonderful to see you up there. Congratulations. I don't have any lists. I hope I don't disappoint people with got text instead. We are right now at a crossroads for our democracy and therefore our city. I'm not happy with the way decisions have been made, and I'm pretty sure that almost every elected member here wants things done differently, and the public are dissatisfied. I'm pleased with the result of the referendum, but I am also very daunted. I am aware of the amount of work we now have to do and that structural change alone is not enough to change our culture. Our role is not just getting things done. Officers in the council work hard to get things done. Getting things done implies a logistical role. With no politics, there are no choices. But as politicians, we are elected representatives. Our role is to listen and seek engagement, to understand the issues, the concerns of the communities that we represent, and also to interpret them with our own ideologies, our own politics. The role of us as a group is to discuss, debate, maybe disagree, and ultimately find solutions that work for the whole city. Bristol needs good decisions, not just fast decisions or lots of decisions. This is not simple, it's not easy, it's not just any plan. But quality decisions that have buy-in from multiple parties won't be overturned after the next election, and will all be stronger for incorporating the criticisms and the suggestions from all parts of the city and the political spectrum. This chamber is for politics. Democracy is politics. It's about decision-making. Let's not shy away from that. We have an issue with trust in this city. Trust in us, but even more importantly, it looks like this council doesn't trust Bristolians. I'm embarrassed that I had to argue to get public voices and public forum heard in this chamber today. Council business and even old ceremonies do. But we have so few meetings, we should ensure that the public always have their say. I represent a ward that supposedly has about average levels of satisfaction or dissatisfaction with the city's governance. We received funding for a new playground, and people were so suspicious of things being done to them that they were wary of this project. It was a new playground. This is a problem. How we do things can be as important as what we do. If we want to build community ownership and participation and true inclusion, democratic processes may sound like a minor issue compared to the massive challenges that are facing our city today. But the validity of everything we do in this chamber rests on us making decisions in the right way. I'm talking to all the elected members in here who feel frustrated that we don't really have the power to change the most important things in this city. I'm talking to you about what we can change, our culture, our systems. Greens want to massively improve our public transport, not in 20 years, but in 2 years, because we don't have time to wait. Like many in this chamber, we are seriously concerned about SEND provision, school places, and social segregation in schools. And we need to include parents in solving these issues. We want action, urgent action, on the climate emergency. We need a clear plan, and we need to use every tool and bit of influence we have. Because the cost of living crisis, the climate crisis, our transport issues, our school problems, and everything else we face are complex issues that need everyone in Bristol involved to solve. That's a theme, actually. I think we've agreed on that one thus far. We can't switch people from cars to buses without them agreeing to get on board. We can't switch people... if our council accepts that we can only influence our direct climate emissions and not those of all the businesses and all the people in Bristol, we will fail to prevent catastrophic climate change. Therefore, we need to create a future governance system where things are done with people, not to people, like the Citizens' Assembly or the HRA consultation. They were great examples. The Mayor has stated that he hopes the committee system can work. Great, thank you. We need to be ready to hit the ground running in 2 years' time. We can't continue with business as usual. It's in everyone's interest, and it's in the interest of the people in Bristol, that we start building consensus around important council decisions if we want to make good decisions and plans, good plans, that stand the test of time. Who's with me? Who wants to bring the people and democracy back into this chamber?
Thank you, Councillor Mack. I'd now like to call on Councillor Mark Weston to speak on behalf of the Conservative Group.
Thank you, my Lord Mayor, and congratulations for being there. I'm delighted you're there. The rules of impartiality mean that you'll be able to throw less barbs at me, I'm sure, although I don't aim to try and challenge you in that regard. I have to say, I think the award for chutzpah goes to Councillor Pearce once again. I knew you put a comment in there just for me, and I promise you I will rise to the occasion later. And I promise you as well, my Lord Mayor, that I have half a dozen Queen songs that I'm going to try and get into this speech as well. I'll probably start with One Vision and we'll move on from there. And of course I won't mention Another One Bites the Dust. So, we actually do face a period of change, but actually Councillor Pearce and I agree on some things. Don't thank God you sat down. It's a period of change, but actually during a period of challenge. The cost of living crisis is not going to get easier anytime soon. The impact on inflation running at 9%, it may be lower than in the EU by 1%, but to be honest, it's not really a prize I think anyone really wants, is it? And when we're tackling things like Russia and the sanctions there, and then the impact that has on gas prices, redirecting and moving the entirety of an energy market takes a long time to stabilise. And it means we're going to need to find solutions. And until those solutions are found, we have a problem. And it's not just the visible costs that you see in food prices, it's the invisible costs as well, which are being borne by businesses, which makes it harder for them. If it costs more fuel to put in the lorry to move things around, they don't pass the whole cost on. They're absorbing that, and that impacts their ability to take in employees. So this period of change that we're talking about is hiding behind that period of challenge that we're all suffering from now. And we only have to look at when we're talking about at the moment, the council tax rebate that's going out now and the problems in the computer system and people can't get to it and the delays going on, which I think our team are doing their best to solve, I genuinely do. But you see how desperate people are, and we all see that now. But the city does face the challenges, and I think we're going to have to accept the fact that when we're looking at change, we're going to have to change the way we work. Gladiatorial politics is all very fun, but the reality is, outside of about 80 people watching this, maybe on YouTube, the city doesn't pay that much attention to it. They don't. I know it's good fun, and we all love it, and I promise, Councillor Pearce, I will get to that comment later. But actually, we're going to have to learn to compromise. And we can do it. We've proven we did it. We did it on the budget. You know, we can actually work together to get things done. We proved it on the local plan working group, where we might not agree on everything, but in the end, something does appear out of the sausage machine that is policy, and we will produce something. And I think actually we'll produce something quite good. And we think when we're doing this, and we talk about how we work well together in things like audit and scrutiny, when the cameras aren't rolling, we're actually fairly civil to each other. Don't write that down, it's okay. We're going to have to embrace that and try and do that better. That compromise, we have to understand though, is everybody compromises. It's not just, I want you to compromise to meet my opinion. That won't work. And we're also going to need to have a situation, we move to committee, where we have discipline as well. We can't all fire off in all directions. We're going to have to hold together because the city are going to want to know accountability. They're going to want to know who's made that decision. And we're going to have to make sure that the system we embrace has the ability to bring in all the voices, the hidden voices in our suburbs and in the wider communities. Those hidden communities sometimes don't know how to speak out. But also, we're going to have to be able to do that at speed because sometimes decisions have to be made quickly. And you can't wait a month for a committee decision. So we're going to have to balance the needs of a modern city with the desire to make sure all those voices are heard. And we're going to have to do that all whilst we try and make sure the city keeps running for the next 2 years. Now, we do disagree on several things, and so I won't go through the whole list of things about housing targets and things like that, and and the train station finally being built, even though it's years delayed, etc., etc. Or the Iron Bridge, which I was at that meeting, Councillor Pearce. And I did enjoy that one. I did enjoy that tremendously. And thank you to everyone who lobbied to get the Iron Bridge funding agreed and approved. And I'm sure we'll all agree it was a wonderful job done by all. We have 18 months, really, to actually try and change the way we work, to try and show the Bristolians in May 2024 that we can come together, that we can be something a bit more than our adversarial selves. And I think we can do it, because we do it. I'm more optimistic. The committee system isn't my preferred model. That was obviously Cabinet. I've made that clear. But I think it's better than the mayoral model. But it's only better if we work together. And maybe it's about time that we had a little grown-up politics in this chamber. But I'm, for one, I'm up for the challenge. Thank you, my Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Weston. Now I'd like to call on Councillor Joss Clark to speak on behalf of the Liberal Democrat Group.
Thank you very much. Before I start my speech, I don't know whether I'm going to direct this at you, Lord Mayor, or the Mayor, but I just wanted to regale a tale that I was at St Mary Redcliffe with Dan Tyndall, who's a delightful vicar there, and I was standing outside in my robes when I was Lord Mayor, and somebody mistook me for the Mayor. And Dan observed that there were a couple of notable differences between myself and Marvin. So I just want to let that one rest with you. Just so that you may get mistaken in the future. Seriously? Yeah, seriously. Okay then. So I just wanted to mention that one. So I rise as leader of the Liberal Democrat group. To be honest, I wouldn't normally start a speech in that way, but I feel this year it is important, and it is important for this reason. Bristol is going to have a unique opportunity to think about how it wants to be run in the future. We have 2 years to consider what this council will look like and how it will work. And even though we are all at the beginning of this journey, it is really clear that it is going to be a collaborative process. By that I mean that we will take advice from within the council and look at best practice from other authorities around the country. We will consult our residents so that they feel part of the process, and we will not exclude them. Marvin, I have always been clear that the referendum was not about an individual, but about a system of governance. Bristolians have made it really clear that they did not like this much power being ceded with one individual. They want their views heard and respected, and most importantly, they want the best for this city. So this coming year has got to be about getting work done. Wouldn't it be nice to leave the city in a good place when you leave office in 2024 and get some of the basics sorted? If I may, I would like to use a couple of examples. We have an issue of not enough secondary places for our pupils coming to the end of primary. The city has to ensure that we do not let our children down and ensure they can be educated locally. The issue of around SEND are still not resolved. So Marvin, wouldn't it be nice to have, as your legacy, a part of your legacy anyway, that rather than the waiting time for an EHCP shamefully having crept back to a year, put in place the resources that we can meet our statutory obligation of 20 weeks. The public have made their views clear, and this gives us a chance to work collaboratively with colleagues, but more importantly, start to give the residents of Bristol more opportunities to have their say in the way that their communities look and feel. This could be through, for example, a strengthening the voice of the area committees. Even, dare I say it, we should look at reinstating the neighbourhood partnerships, which worked well and got things done. I would hope that over the next 2 years, the Council will start to implement some of the changes necessary and that the decision-making will become more inclusive, so that the shift to the committee system is an organic process rather than an abrupt end of the mayoral system. I hope that the administration sees that a phased approach is better for the city and one where we can take our residents with us through the process. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd now like to call on Councillor Hopkins to speak on behalf of the Knoll Community Party.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and congratulations. And you've got a very hard act to follow. Somebody who managed to keep order without hectoring the public, which was a considerably difficult task sometimes. I was involved in the Scrutiny Commission a week or two ago. One of the items on the agenda were community asset transfers. And I think they actually illustrate how important volunteering is, which is a theme from early on in our meeting. And I think from 4 examples that I know well, I think we can learn a lot of lessons about how communities function and what the values are that we should be looking for. First one, Redcatch Community Centre, which has actually been enormously successful. A group took over a derelict building from the council about 20 years ago, effectively, and then put a huge amount of effort into it. And anybody who's been there knows it's an absolutely pristine building, low rental for the community, and in absolutely perfect condition, without public money. And the only thing that came up with that was the way that the foregone money was actually measured, because the foregone money was measured for when the asset transfer was done, and 9/10 of the work had already actually been done by then. It was worth nothing when the group actually took it over. And congratulations to my colleague, Councillor Davis, who happens to chair that community centre. The second one is the park on Daventry Road. Long-standing members will remember that a school closed there back just over 20 years ago, a secondary school, and that was a tragic loss for our area. The buildings were taken over, though, by a trust, and unofficially working with the council first, and then eventually with an asset transfer. They have actually produced miracles. We're getting a brand new school there. We've got now a £10 million community centre that's just been built over the last couple of years, and the number of bodies that actually function in there to benefit the community are tremendous. And bluntly, that would never ever have happened if it had remained within council control. I can illustrate this by my old friend Clive Harry, who was the head of the secondary school before it closed, who was one of the driving forces in getting the park, which was offered education services at its core, off the ground. Some years ago I thought, dear me, he looks ill, he's looking very old. But I was at an opening do just a few nights ago where suddenly this spring chicken had appeared. And basically he said that the difference was being able to think positively when they were actually fully in charge. And I think that speaks volumes for community effort and how people can be motivated. The third example is Redcatch Pavilion, which is a large shed in the middle of Redcatch Park. Some years ago, the showers stopped working. Now there's a couple of football pitches there, so showers are, quite important. The Parks Department put out for tenders, got several in, and did nothing about it. And then there was dithering. And then they decided eventually there was going to have to be an asset transfer. So we put together a partnership of the community garden there and the football club, who were at the aforementioned park on Daventry Road. Because of the new school going in, they're going to have a second base as well. They put in for an asset transfer, 2 amazingly successful organisations in a partnership. Several years later, after this £10 million centre has been built at the park, new facilities put in for all sorts of groups, we're still waiting for the council to actually manage to get the paperwork together for that asset transfer. There are still cold showers in there. It is still not functioning properly, and the council could have had that done for nothing to benefit the community. And I think that that illustrates hugely why community effort and supporting the community is important. Jubilee Pool, another one which is well known by a lot of you. That's an asset transfer. One of the support this council was going to give at no cost to itself of a cheap loan that a majority of councillors voted for was blocked by the mayor. The group that are actually effectively running it now, but without the asset transfer, the Friends of Jubilee Pool, have done wonders. It's now profitable, working well and serving the community. Under council management, it was not. I just pray that the mayor does not, in a moment of petulance, attempt to scupper and sabotage the asset transfer, because everyone in our area and neighbouring wards
Councillor
is looking
Hopkins,
forward.
can I ask you to finish up, please?
Yes, Lord Mayor. Is looking forward to an extremely successful future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all of party group leaders. I find myself moved to say something. I don't really plan on saying this, but if I go back to the agenda item number 12, it says, Mayor's address to full council with party group leaders' responses. And I'm not making a political point here, but I am saying that the quality of debate must be better in the sense that what is the topic of this? If the mayor is making a speech and you're supposed to be responding, I would just say that as my year here in this chair, I don't have a huge amount of influence and not a lot of power, but I would really try to urge and encourage people to have debates that actually respond to what we're talking about, not just on this issue, but in everything. You know, I will go further and say that, you know, when I was ill, I watched two meetings on the television, and it really was obvious that a lot of people write speeches a day or two beforehand and don't respond. And the quality of debate and the interest in everything is going to be so much better if we challenge ourselves to actually listen and respond. Thank you. Okay, so moving swiftly on, agenda item 13, which is the Scrutiny annual report. Oh, sorry, the Mayor's got a chance to report. So I got overexcited myself there. Marvin, do you want to respond to the responses?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. So, I mean, I would just pick up on that. Sorry, how many minutes do I have here?
You have 5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay. So, I would pick up on that final point you made. I mean, I think it would be worth putting the speeches alongside each other. We're talking about real substance, the fabric of the city, the major social challenges of our time, and some of the other talks I struggled to know what they were about. I hope too, with your background in teaching, that there might actually be occasion to assess the content of the speeches as well, and see if they do actually meet a standard that you would have accepted in an essay that was handed into you. I mean, in terms of the green content, I mean, again, I don't quite understand your points on the balance between discussion and delivery. And I'm not actually sure what you stand for at this moment in time. That people do need front doors. They need to be real. They need food, and it needs to be real. Getting stuff done is at the heart of what local government needs to be doing at this moment in time with the city. And I will say, and I've shared it with members of your own group, it is one of the biggest disappointments in Bristol politics. Your continual, whether it be willful or for lack of understanding, misrepresentation of how we have actually engaged with the city to develop the One City plan, to put our boards together, bring the city together around the climate strategy, the ecological strategy, the work we've done on digital inclusion, domestic violence, to just ignore the fact that we've worked with the city to do that, and just to keep parroting the idea that one person makes all the decisions is just incredibly disappointing. It doesn't do the city a service. As for Mark, I mean, there was another song that came to my mind when I thought about the 2021 election. That is, "We Are the Champions." We did win that election. And in terms of another one bites the dust, that depends on the quality of the committee system you develop and where you take the city's future. But again, I hope that the warnings I put on that committee system are actually wrong. I think too, it was a really interesting insight you shared, and I'll overlap it with the Lord Mayor's comments. When you talk about when the cameras aren't rolling, we are actually civil to each other, and that is true. But what you uncover there is the fact that when the cameras are rolling, we use this chamber for theatre, right? Can I, Lord Mayor? Thank you. We use it for theatre, when actually there are very serious challenges facing the city. You also referred to the need to engage in some grown-up politics in the city. And I too would agree that we don't do grown-up politics in this chamber. We use it theatre. And then, as the Lord Mayor just suggested, the quality of debate and discussion in this chamber is poor. And then we get this lament that people don't take the chamber seriously. And I've said many times, if we could, in this room, with these councillors who have been elected to lead the city, match the quality of discussions that we have at the One City boards and at the One City gathering, then we'd be fully engaged. But we don't. But for some reason in this chamber, people choose not to do that because they want the theatre, they want the headline, they want the tweet. And that's disappointing. And whatever theatre performance goes on in here, and I know there are members on those benches who are serious about their politics, whatever we say in this chamber to represent the group, we know that that's true, right? Because that's why the city's been underserved. As for Liberal Democrat, Jos, I mean, I'm not quite sure what the argument was. I mean, in terms of the future of the committee system, that is your job to design that now. You went to the city on a promise. Tell the city what it is that you promised. I don't know about the Knoll Community Party. In terms of my job now, you know, the debate has been had on the referendum. I shared my concerns and my warnings. It is now not my job to keep issuing those concerns and warnings. Right? What I don't want to do, and I've made a conscious decision about this, I don't want to further undermine the confidence in the city that's already been expressed to me about this change of governance, because that is the confidence that will determine whether we do or do not get the billions of pounds worth of public and private money we're going to need to build our city, to put our heat networks in, to decarbonise and do all the other stuff that we need to get done. So I really hope I'm wrong, and I want this system to work. But I think amongst the things I can do to make it possible to work is, one, to continue to build the city assets, and I will finish. The relationships, the city office, I think, is one of the best developments we've had in city governance, pulling together the city's institutions. Build homes for people so they've got resilience in their lives and in their communities. Housing is one of the single most effective policy tools we have to improve social justice, reduce health inequalities and promote economic inclusion and decarbonise the way we live. To secure investment, both inside the city through the city funds and from outside sources, and to build the infrastructure the city needs. That's what I will be focused on over the next 2 years, so we hand over to whatever takes over the best possible city we can.
Thank you. So now we do move to item 13, Scrutiny Annual Report for 2021-2022. This report is for noting. I call on Councillor Dyer as Chair of Scrutiny to move the report. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and congratulations. I rise to move the Scrutiny Annual Report. It provides an overview of the work that has been performed by Scrutiny over the civic year and how we have endeavoured to meet the challenges of providing scrutiny of decision-making. As a newly elected councillor, I've been very lucky to have inherited a very knowledgeable and committed group of councillors on OSM from across all parties. And I believe we have demonstrated that cross-party working can be done if everyone is committed to it. For that reason, I would particularly like to thank Councillors Gollop and Kent, and especially my Vice-Chair, Councillor Bradshaw, for their ongoing support. I would also like to add my thanks to the Mayor of Bristol and the Chief Executive and his officers for their willingness to engage with me as the Chair of OSM, as we have looked forward to how we can further improve scrutiny. I have also been extremely lucky to be able to turn to a highly effective and dedicated scrutiny team, led by Lucy and ably supported by Joe, Amy and Dan. My Lord Mayor, since taking on the role of Chair of OSM, I've become acutely aware of the importance of the scrutiny role and how it can help and support good decision-making within the Council. I believe that in the year to come, there will be increased opportunities for scrutiny to work cooperatively to aid in the development of policy at an early stage, and I firmly believe there is willingness at all levels to make this happen. Looking further to the future, I fully expect that the scrutiny function will continue to play a vitally important role, regardless of how the Council is organised. Better informed decision-making will almost always be the outcome of a deliberative scrutiny process, and better informed decision-making will in turn almost inevitably lead to improved outcomes for Bristol and its residents. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
I'd now like to call on Councillor Mark Bradshaw to speak on behalf of the Labour Group. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and can I add my congratulations as well. It was a joy to be on the Scrutiny Commission with you, and if you show the same degree of energy in your new role, it will be a highly successful year. Can I just follow some of the comments of Councillor Dyer and to add my thanks to him and fellow OSM leads and members for their support and commitment to effective scrutiny. I just want to make a few comments, and this is largely around some of the challenges ahead that need to be addressed. Obviously, resources remain a key pressure point, as they are across the whole Council. Ways of working for scrutiny are also adapting, with more task and finish groups and inquiry days. But we still need regular meetings of the various committees that we have, and the balance isn't quite right. And climate change and net zero perhaps require a very different approach going forward, and I know that my colleagues are working on this. The balance in our work as scrutiny needs to shift more towards policy development, in my view. This requires early engagement by Cabinet members and their portfolio officer teams. I have seen the positive outcomes from such cooperative working and would encourage more of the same. We benefit from dedicated officers supporting scrutiny, and perhaps there should be more flow of people between the policy teams, between the portfolio teams and the scrutiny function. This might help to embed scrutiny principles throughout the organisation. Greater use of co-option and external technical advisors should also be on the table. The combined authority impacts on the daily lives of our residents and determines a growing slice of resources available to the Council. But our scrutiny arrangements are still evolving, and without disrespect to my colleagues on WECA scrutiny, need to be made more comprehensive. As part of our remit, we recognise the business of the Council is becoming more complex, and more flexible arrangements are required to ensure that the Council's companies, One City, and other relevant entities, such as City Leap, have the proper scrutiny that they deserve and require. Now, as I understand it, under the legislation, councils reverting to a committee system are not required to have overview and scrutiny, but they can if they wish. Whilst very much up to the working group to devise options and for full council to agree a preferred model, I am making my views known today that some form of scrutiny is essential to transparency, ongoing challenge, and public service improvement. So I support the annual report of scrutiny, welcome the commitment shown by colleagues across the Chamber, and look forward to a very busy year ahead. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
I'd now like to call on Councillor Graham Morris to speak on behalf of the Conservative Group.
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. I too would like to offer my congratulations. You'll be sick of hearing that by the end of today. I'll remember that for next time. So Councillor Dyer made a very valid points, and Councillor Bradshaw made some very valid points there as well, so thank you for that. I'm going to focus on Health Overview Scrutiny Commission this year, which I was fortunate enough to chair. And it was a very busy year with three main focuses. The first focus was upskilling members. Out of the 9 members of the committee, 7 had never sat on health overview before. So I'd like to thank everyone involved in providing the support and the information and the guidance to help get us into a position where we were able to really have a couple of really good meaty sessions. The next focus is something which we will have to continue this year, the changes from the CCG into the integrated care boards, and how the council will be working as equal partners with the NHS through the locality partnerships. This is something I would urge all members to get involved with, because it could have quite profound positive impacts for our community. And the third main focus this year has been on health, both mental health and also physical well-being. We had a great presentation on the healthy weight documentation and approach that the city is launching, something else that's going to be key to our residents over the next few years. Notwithstanding that, I would also like to reference the work done around that members have done, reviewing the quality accounts for the 5 main care providers in the area. And really, I hope this year will see us do much of the same, because these are not short-term goals and something that we will need to monitor for years to come. Just to finish, first of all, I'd like to thank Councillor Massey for being such an excellent link between the old committee and the new committee. Thank you very much for your sort of knowledge and helping me through this last year. And I'd always like to thank Dan Berlin for his sterling work in supporting the chair and the committee, and wish him well in his new role. Thank you, my Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Morris. Now I'd like to call on Councillor Tim Kent to speak on behalf of the Liberal Democrat group.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. First off, thanks to Tony for leading the collaborative process on scrutiny, and also his predecessor, Carla. I'd also like to thank the officers for their constant support for advice and scrutiny members. I'm going to keep going through the thanks for now, because then I get to the bit at the end. I want to thank the People's Scrutiny members, in particular Tim Rippington, because I think Tim is going to leave us this year, unfortunately, and sort of his contribution has been really valuable to the Commission. I also want to thank the Cabinet members for attending our Scrutiny Commission. We have a very good attendance of Cabinet members, and I think their attendance and contributions valuable, and I hope they think that occasionally that's a two-way process. Now, as the former Lord Mayor cut me short, but now we have a newer, and dare I say even better Lord Mayor, I'm going to finish my speech from earlier. So what I'm really keen is that overview and scrutiny management in the coming year plays an active part in making sure there's this public engagement around the new committee process. So I'm hoping that every couple of months we will see that committee report back to overview scrutiny management, and sort of a health test could occur. And I think that will be a really important part that the public can then see a constitution growing and developing, and we can also provide, I think, a friendly check on what's coming forward, rather than just being given something right at the end of the process, which is, this is what we come up with, yes or no, which is never a really good way of doing things. So I think that might be an important piece of business for overview and scrutiny management in the future. And I don't think we can discuss this too much, because we've got to make sure we get this right. How we embed this will also embed the way we practice as a council. And that's probably more important than just sort of the rules and all that you see within this. It is also then how we will approach decision making, how we will engage with our communities. Anyway, that was my first little rant. My second one then is I wanted to talk about public access. I think this is really important, because one of the advantages we suddenly found from COVID is we all had to go online, and people who were at home quite bored, and when they got really bored, they turned on to Bristol City Council to see if we were anything like Haverford Parish Council, and only occasionally did we manage to get perhaps near those levels. But people really liked the fact they could see their councillors debating issues, and unfortunately, and I understand why, because money's always tight, we've not been able to keep that up. I want to make an appeal that we do all we can to try to make sure as many of our meetings are broadcast on YouTube so people can see them. I mean, People's Scrutiny Commission would often have 300 people viewing it. I'm getting the hint. I've just got the red light. Thank you very much, Lord Mayor.
We are now on to Councillor Hopkins to speak on behalf of the Knoll Community Party Group.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. The first thing to say is that a lot can be learned from scrutiny over the next year or so that will prepare this council for the committee system. Unless we learn those lessons, then we will face difficulties. I think it's important to say that although scrutiny decides the detail of what it does, it needs resources. Nobody's criticising the quality of the scrutiny officers and the work that they individually put in, but if the information does not come to the Commission early enough, if it's not accessible to them early enough, and they don't have enough time to actually look at it properly, the work's not going to be as good as it could be. And it's vital we get the right decisions, not just quick decisions, which sometimes have to be reversed afterwards. So I think that we need to look at a model in terms of the way that we do things in the long term that's based on what we do over the next 12 months or so. I'm sceptical as to whether we'll have the finished model of how things should be in 6 months' time. I think that's unlikely, but it's good to have a target to go for, even if you slip back beyond it. And I congratulate all those who are involved in scrutiny, and we do, and I take the point that was made earlier with regard to the combined authority. I think that we do need to be lobbying to try and get a wider scrutiny of actually how that actually operates, because it increasingly affects the way that life happens in Bristol. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hopkins. So thank you all, and now we have an opportunity for Councillor Dyer, as the mover of the report, to have an opportunity to respond.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I promise not to take too much time. A few points I want to pick up on. I think at the beginning, Mark was absolutely right. We do need to look at the methods we use when we do scrutinise. Sometimes formal meetings aren't necessarily the best approach when we're working through an agenda. So task and finish groups worked, I thought, excellently for the budget scrutinising, and also working groups. And Mark briefly referred to climate change and net zero, and I'm hoping that one of the things we'll be able to do in this coming scrutiny year is to have a working group looking at climate change or net zero decarbonisation. And I also agree that we do need that early engagement in policy decision making. I think the will is there for that to happen. We need to find out how we do that in a way that is both effective and respectful of the positions of everybody involved. Record scrutiny was also mentioned, and obviously what we do is Bristol scrutiny, not record scrutiny, but clearly decisions made by the West of England Combined Authority have a massive impact on Bristol. And I would like to express my thanks for Ben Mosley for the briefing that he gave us upon Record, and I think that has been a very useful input, and I think all of us on OSM and the Vice Chairs who invited to that came away, I wouldn't say happy, but I think we came away a lot more informed than we were going into that meeting, so I'd like to thank Ben for that. Graham mentioned about upskilling, and I think that's an important issue, because, and also looking forward to the future, because there are many people in this room who I think would be good on committees. I'm not sure everybody in this room is currently trained on how to scrutinise. It is a mindset that needs work and needs training, and the member development training we have coming forward would be very useful in taking that forward. And also, to be blunt, we don't know what will happen in the elections in 2024. We may have an entirely new set of brand new councillors, or we may have some councillors returning, who knows. Tim's point, I think also about scrutinising the governance report and the working group. I think we do have a line in that report which says that it would be up to OSM and also, as has been pointed out to me, audit, which actually has governance within its remit, to look at how they engage with the process and engage with that working group. And I look forward to having those conversations with the working group when it is set up. And the other thing I will also say is, Gary mentioned about resources, so did Mark. And I think there is an important point to look at is what will scrutiny look like in the future? And Gary mentioned about having the resources to provide scrutiny with the opportunity to go further than we've gone before. And maybe we need to look at whether scrutiny in the future may not be entirely made up just of councillors. It may be an opportunity to bring in expertise from the wider city as well. So thank you all for your comments. I look forward to working with most of you over the next video. I'll say one last thing. I know I'm in the red light. Can you, if you're on scrutiny on any commission, please make sure you have June the 7th in your diary, because that is when we are going to be doing the scrutiny work programme, and we need the input of everybody into that to make sure we cover the topics that need to be covered. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. This report is noted, and this concludes this agenda item. We're on to our final agenda item for today, which is the Statement of Licensing Policy. This report seeks Council's approval for amendments to the Council Statement of Licensing Policy. I call on Councillor Bennett, as Chair of Licensing, to move the report. You have 3 minutes, Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I won't be using the full 3 minutes because I'm sure, like everyone else in this room, I want to break free. The Statement of Licensing Policy explains how Bristol City Council, as the licensing authority, will exercise its functions under the Licensing Act. This very minor change to the policy is purely to incorporate a summary of the cumulative impact assessment for the city centre as required by legislation. The cumulative impact assessment is already enforceable, having come into force in March 2021, and has already been a public consultation on this change. As such, the only amendment to the policy is the addition of 3 paragraphs summarising the cumulative impact assessment. Thank you.
Certainly, you're true to your word there. Thank you. I now like to call on Councillor Emma Edwards to second the report.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and also congratulations. Lovely to see you there. I rise to second the statement policy with its amendment for approval. This report acknowledges the impact of COVID-19 on the nighttime economy in Bristol and the challenges facing small businesses in the community. I can't say that word. What's that word? Communitative. Help me out. Thank you. Impact area. Now I'm going to use acronyms only during that time. We appreciate that the report takes into account not only this and all the challenges, but how a well-managed nighttime economy environment is vital to the safety and welfare of those partaking in it, especially regarding women and the LGBTQ community. The aims of the licensing policy is to help Bristol maintain a thriving cultural scene with a variety of licensed venues, while keeping venues safe and areas of the centre enjoyable for all who use them. And this can be a difficult balance to maintain, but this report has shown that these aspects can be taken into account when reviewing the CIA. Although the public consultation on the CIA amendments only yielded small input, we hope that our collective efforts as a council, as mentioned by some of our councillors here today and the Lord Mayor, that we can encourage more public interest and engagement in future, and that this will have a positive effect. And we can encourage more people to take part in such consultations and have their say. I also want to thank the licensing officers and the legal team for all their hard work on licensing this year and for their work on this report. So I recommend to approve.
Now I'd now like to move to call Councillor Chris Windows to speak on behalf of the Conservative Group. Thank you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. And I'd like to add my congratulations. I don't see why you should get away with it. So congratulations on achieving the role you have. I'm not going to take more than half an hour on this, so you can turn the lights off, all right? This report is a long and comprehensive explanation of the law and of the sometimes difficult decision-making for subcommittee members. The CIA, nothing to do with America, by the way, just in case anybody, for the city centre area is necessary and sensible. It does not, however, remove the duty of the decision makers, the councillors, to justify any refusal of a licence without representation from council officers or other relevant bodies. It also shows how important the police input can be in helping councillors make their decision. There appears to be little mention in the report of the direction of travel of sexual entertainment venues. Judging by experience over recent years, it would appear to be round in circles. The decision on a nil policies such SEVs needs to be decided upon very quickly now. We have heard of all the arguments for and against, some valid, some definitely not valid. The licensing authority is in danger of being accused of asking for guidance but not liking the result and proposing another consultation. This needs a decision as a matter of urgency. I'll get off my soapbox now. As going round in circles on it is not only difficult but positively dangerous. Altogether, this is a good report and I am happy to support it. And I would add my thanks to the officers who produced it as an extremely professional piece of work. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Withers. I'd now like to call on Councillor Sarah Classic to speak on behalf of the Liberal Democrat Group. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. And it would be rude not to add my congratulations, Lord Mayor. So there we go. So the responsibility of the Licensing Committee is a delicate one. On the one hand, it is the gateway to the city's infamous nightlife, be it the pubs, nightclubs, restaurants, shops, our world-famous roster of festivals and events, all of which, especially in a post-COVID world, is in need of protection and promotion. But there also needs to work in the interests of citizens in the city, that premises act responsibly and do not negatively impact those of us that live and work in the city. Within a healthy nighttime economy that brings so much to Bristol comes challenges, especially in the city centre. Increases in things like antisocial behaviour is an issue for many of our public bodies, including police, communities, public health, as well as residents and other people enjoying the city centre. And this is where the cumulative impact assessment, glad I got through that, sorry Emma, is a vital piece of licensing policy, ensuring that premises within the zone contribute positively to the area and doesn't cause additional strain to citizens in the city centre, ultimately creating a safer nighttime economy and allowing people to continue to enjoy themselves. I want to thank the officers and the citizens that contributed to the consultations for this piece of work. It is a great policy. This year is likely to be a challenging one for the Licensing Committee as we take on the previous consultation for the contentious SEV policy, which will be debated hopefully soon. But for now, I speak to support the results of this policy and its impact on Bristol.
Thank you. And could I now call on Councillor Hopkins to speak on behalf of the Knoll Community Party Group?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. However good or not a policy is, it depends upon the councillors sat on the committee to actually interpret it well and sensibly. And I want to say thank you to those officers that we actually made pleased to over this last year or so. I think the reference to the sexual entertainments is valid in that there needs to be something done one way or another. My own view would be that you always must listen to the workers on the ground as being the most important people involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bennett, as mover of the report, you have an opportunity to respond? With another Queen song, perhaps?
I actually had to Google Queen songs and just try to work it in my speech. I'm sorry, guys, but yeah, I sort of know We Will Rock You. But yeah, no, I thank all the contributions made by the other councillors, and sort of think they made some really important points. Yeah, all I'd stress is it's only a very minor update that's been made to the policy, just referencing the CIA that we've now got into force. Because it's been mentioned, the SCV policy, we are hoping to set a date for the hearing at some point this summer, so we've got that to look forward to. But that's all what I've got to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The recommendation is shown on the screen and is on the report in your agenda pack. All those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against say nay. Thank you. Oh, sorry. Thank you. That concludes the agenda item and today's meeting. Thank you to all councillors and to others for attending. The next meeting of full council is on the 5th of July 2022, starting at 6 p.m. I do note that I was told that this meeting might not end until about 5:45. So whatever's happened here today, I just, you know... I hope I didn't crack on too fast for everybody, but it's a lovely evening. And thank you all, and see you at the next meeting. Good evening.